Good morning. Like anything in life, there are do's and do nots to any given situation. Today, on the Stockpile Friday chat, we're going to do just that talk about the do's and do nots to stockpiling effectively. And I'll be back in a minute. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody today? I'm Jan. I love to help people save money and more, especially with their hard-earned money. How you doing today? Hey, happy Friday. If your weekend begins now, yeah. And even if your weekend doesn't begin on Friday, have a great day anyway. Every day should be a celebration. I'm just saying, let's get right into it. Let's talk today about some of the do's and don'ts of stockpiling. I'm getting my trusty notebook and my little bit of reading glasses because I did make some notes about it. All right. Number one, do not, and this is a bold face, do not purchase items that you do not or your family doesn't like and you don't use. Just because everybody recommends, let's say, item number or letter XYZ, because that's like the formulary that a lot of people give. If your family doesn't use it, you may as well consider it thrown in a garbage can. You just don't want it sitting there like a decoration. Yeah, it looks cute. It may look cute, but if you don't use it, well, you lose it in terms of losing money. So that's a really important one. Do not purchase items that you or your family just doesn't like. Don't use them. If you don't like them during regular times, who's to say you're going to like them during an emergency? I'm just saying. All right. Another do not, and this is important too, do not compare your pantry versus someone else. Okay. Well, I had a friend. She's unfortunately, she's no longer, and she and her husband were like family to me. She was like my sister, and her husband was like my brother, and we were just really really close friends for many years. But unfortunately, they're no longer around. But I'm telling you, it looked like her room would look like the day after a disaster room. She got so many things. It looked like a miniature grocery store. The only thing missing was the cash register. I'm not even kidding you. The problem is that I did notice. I'm not speaking ill of my friend. She did have a little bit of a tendency to overshop. Ever know anybody like that? She would shop just to shop, not because she really needed the thing. So and she always compared her room, for example, like to someone else's that maybe looked like a department store versus, let's say, a mom and pop grocery. I would say that my friend's stockpile was in more like the mom and pop grocery, but it was really big for just two adults without, children. So that's almost like the comparison thing. And she used to stress out a lot about the size of her stockpile. And I said to myself, it defeats the purpose because, in my opinion, having a good stockpile of groceries, things that your family uses and needs, it's supposed to be a source of comfort. But in the case of my sweet friend, she used to stress out over it. So I could tell you for a fact, comparing your stockpile to someone else's is just pointless. First of all, everyone doesn't start off at the same time. And more importantly, having a stockpile is not like entering a race. You are not joining a race. You are not, you know what I'm saying? We're not at the starting line to a race. This is ridiculous. I'm just saying. So it's just not to be compared. So a big do not compare your pantry, your stockpile to someone else's. That's just ridiculous and absolutely pointless. And if it causes you stress, not worth it. Anyway, all right, next. Do not be afraid to use up the stuff that you bought. I say this many times, maybe, in person, like not on a video or speaking, to friends or family, just saying, like, just as a matter, of general conversation. A lot of people are literally afraid to use up their stockpile. Stockpile, your pantry, active stockpile, all of this, everything, freezer, this is all a living, breathing, ever changing thing. It is not there just to look at like a statue. The stockpile, I'm just saying that for short, is not a statue. It's not a thing that just stays there, okay? It's ever living and ever breathing. And it's going to sometimes be a little depleted, and that's when you recognize that a little ahead of time and you replace it. But it is there. It is there for the inclement weather. It is there for the long haul, some of the stuff. It is there, but not as a decoration. It is there to be used. So a big do not be afraid to use what you paid for, because some people make the mistake of letting it go at that. And then you know what? Too much time goes by, and then it's really not the greatest time to use some of the stuff if it's well past its prime. I'm not talking about a little bit past its prime or whatever, where you're putting your health at risk sometimes. I'm just saying. But that's another show. Next, here's a do. Do find a place to begin and get started. If you're just listening to this and you're brand new here, like I said in the past, welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you're just getting started and just dabbling in the idea of thinking, I want to pay today's prices so I can have some of those groceries tomorrow, not pay tomorrow's prices. Okay. If people, for example, started 3 years ago to stockpile and they saved some money, they're ahead of the game. So, but don't compare. Again, like I said earlier, don't compare. Just get started and do find a place to begin your stockpile. A lot of people forget something. They forget that part of the whole of food stockpile groceries, you have to include your freezer and your refrigerator, not just some cute little room or some area with shelving. Like a lot of people thinking of, let's say, their pantry items, but they keep forgetting that their freezer is part of the stockpile. Okay, it's part of it. It's something you use all the time. So we have to be in recognition of that. And failing to do that is another do not. Okay, so always recognize your freezer and your refrigerator as part of your stockpile. Now, some people have difficulty. They have difficulty in figuring out a place to begin. And I get that. When you're a person that lives in a great big city, or you're in a smaller space, or typically an apartment, or let's say maybe an RV or whatever, your space issues are a challenge. Well, welcome to the club. There's a lot of us that go through that. That's the time to get extra creative. And in a way, it's kind of fun. You see where I'm going with this? So we have to just get creative. It doesn't have to be your typical, the way everybody else seems to do it type thing. You have to recognize, all of us, our own individual, we need to recognize our own unique and individual spaces. Okay. Some common places are, let's say, if you have a table in a corner, put a nice, pretty tablecloth over it, put some of the stuff under there. No one will even know it's there but you. If just reorganizing, you have extra boxes or spaces in your closet, you don't want to go out and buy organizers yet, or at the moment you don't have the money for that. Just get creative. Look up. There are tons of videos that specifically tell you. See where I'm going with this, but definitely go and check it out. The first thing to do is to know where your stuff is going to go, and then have a plan and figure out how much you can allot each and every grocery haul. Or if you're at the dollar store type thing, then you pick up some of your stuff at the dollar store, wherever you could get the best price for the stuff that you actually use. That is a winner, and keep within the assigned budget. Now, if you find something and you happen to be at a place, at a store that you didn't expect, okay, you did your research, whatever, but then comes up a manager special. And if this is something you actually use and you could squeeze it in with the money that you have, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Because there are times we need to spend in order to save.